Hello, I'm Dan.
And I'm Simon.
And this is a special episode of the Wikicast, the podcast about random Wikipedia articles. Today, we are joined by a guest.
Hi, it's me, Hannah Witton. I'm the guest.
And what article are we talking about in this episode, Hannah?
So the article that Wikipedia generated for me today is the 1999 US Men's Clay Court Championships doubles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're talking about tennis, I'm assuming. It actually doesn't say tennis anywhere, but I'm assuming it's tennis.
Just men's doubles. Two guys going around. That's it. That's all we need to know.
Hitting a ball back and forth.
6 feet apart because they're not gay. And observing social distancing.
So I had a quick scroll, and this is a really short article.
Well, funnily enough, the very first article we ever had was about a doubles tennis tournament.
How
was
weird
it this
is that?
one?
No, it was the Congolium Classic or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But they don't tend to stick in the mind sometimes, Hannah, because sometimes they are incredibly short. That's, it's the articles are like about 10% of this article. The 10% of this podcast.
Yeah, we had last time, this was on, so the episode that was broadcast on the 6th of July, 2017, Wikicast Pilot 000, the 1980s Congolium Classic doubles, which is just nuts.
What a callback. This is one for a deep cut for the fans.
Absolutely.
Okay, Hannah, perhaps we should give you some form of introduction. So what do you do online? What's the kind of stuff that you are known for?
I am known for talking about sex. I do like sex education and make YouTube videos. Have my own podcast where I talk to guests about all sorts of different topics around sex and relationships.
And you have been doing this for quite a while. When did you first start making videos? Because you're like kind of the old guard of YouTubers in a way.
I'm one of... I know some people who have been on it much longer than me, but I'm still considered ancient. So I've been making YouTube videos for 9 years.
Wow. That's about. I mean, we've been doing it for about the same time, but your channel's taken off in a very big way, and you've been phenomenally successful with it. And you're also a twice published author.
Oh yes, and that.
The small thing.
Ding, ding, ding.
And you've been phenomenally successful with it. And we've worked together with the Wikicast and also on a couple of videos on our respective channels. Of course, we'll put some links to that in the show notes of the podcast. But this is the first time you and Dan have met. Although I think we would have been in the same room at VidCon. So Dan and I went to VidCon in Amsterdam, the first one.
Yes.
Okay, I would have been there.
And so I think paths must have crossed, but this is the first time that we've had cause to be together, I guess. So what can you tell us about this tennis doubles tournament?
So the champions, the winners, were American Jim Courier and, oh my God, what flag is that? It's either Australia or New Zealand. It's one of those ones.
Are the stars on it red or white?
The stars are white.
Australian
Todd Woodbridge.
So Dan would know that because he did live in Australia for a time.
I did. I am by law one of them. Marvelously. They can't get rid of me anymore. Yeah.
Well, no one could get rid of you at the moment because we're all stuck where we are. Nobody's allowed to move anywhere.
Lockdown. We're
recording this. This is just to completely spoil the date. This is the 2nd of April. So we've been in lockdown for nearly 2 weeks now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, about that.
And I think it's fair to say that we're all dealing with it. The three of us are dealing with it in slightly different ways. Hannah, you are, by your own admission, a bit of an extrovert, and so you found this a bit more difficult, I think.
Yeah, but I'm an extrovert who's very used to working from home and spending long chunks of time not seeing other human beings.
Yeah.
But that does not necessarily make it any easier, because normally I would spend my whole days not talking to another human being, and then I would spend my evenings very actively socialising.
Yeah.
But FaceTime is great.
And Zoom. Everyone's obsessed with Zoom now, and I'm an absolute convert to it. It's been fantastic. We've had several... the back row of Exeter Cathedral had a virtual pub the other day, and several other groups, and we've discovered the joys of the virtual green screen. That you can do, which is just brilliant fun. I think
the virtual backgrounds on Zoom, because you can also download your own images.
Yes, exactly. So we were in a call the other day. As I say, this was with some cathedral folk. And,
so Dan works at Exeter Cathedral, just to give that at least a little bit of context.
Yes, for readers both short and long time. time, they'll probably know because I don't shut up about the bloody thing. But we were on a call, and it was the back rows that make up the cathedral choir, and we were going around and seeing who could do the most interesting, which suddenly became risque, backgrounds. And I found a really glorious image online of just a really spectacular collection of dildos.
Oh my God, but you're like in church.
Yeah, and I found that, and I thought,
brilliant.
This is perfect. I popped that on, and then who should join the call next but our canon presenter, the Reverend James Mustard. And he suddenly popped in and goes, he wasn't surprised at all. So, but it's brilliant. It's so nice.
My Zoom background stories aren't as good as that.
No, I only had my first ever Zoom call today, actually. I was doing something, I'm doing a bit of filming for the Weather Channel, and they want me to record myself remotely for an interview. And so we had this meeting over Zoom, and they were like, do you have like a DSLR, any microphones? And I was like, mate, you've come to the right place. It was like that scene in The Matrix where all the guns arrive on racks. I was like, we've got gear, lots of gear.
So you truly are living your lifelong dream. You're living it out as a glorified weatherman. This is happening.
Weatherman
That's
from
it.
home.
Yeah, this is true.
Amazing.
Consulting weatherman. But yeah.
Do you have a green screen? Can't be a weatherman without a green screen.
The thing is, my green screen broke. I had the same green screen that everybody had, like everybody bought from Amazon. That's
the foldable one.
Well, it's allegedly foldable.
Every time I try and put mine down, I have to watch YouTube videos to instruct me how to do it.
It's ridiculous. Mine just broke because I think I tried to fold it and I just got so pissed off that it wasn't folding. I just snapped it.
It's like when you think you're doing yourself a favour by buying those pop-up tents. If you go camping or to a festival or something, and you think this will save so much time, and then someone in the group has to look up an instructional video as to how to A, get it up, and B, put it away again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for me, the social isolation thing and being in quarantine is great. Dare I say, time of my life. Everybody is online playing video games, so my social life is actually better now because of quarantine. Which
I will say, like, family and friends who I would take for granted that I would see them in person at some point, and then you never get round to, I'm now talking to way more regularly.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, actually. And I think, just friends in general on like social media. I've had quite a few conversations strike up because of it. It's really, it has actually brought people together, and it's kind of a lovely, almost kind of wartime, we're all in it together, I guess, kind of spirit.
Keep calm and carry on. It's lovely too, I think, certainly in a group of friends that Simon and I have been playing some video games with. It's perfectly normal now just to kind of join a Discord group call on a morning and keep a headphone in through the day and just see who might, like, you know, literally like a chat room. You know, people just come and go as they please. And there's always kind of a focus to actually call someone or video call them rather than just shoot them a text or message them. And it's so nice. It's just nice. It feels, ironically, it feels like there is more contact while being isolated, I think, because you're not just flicking each other messages with no face and it's a bit disconnected.
I think that the social world in general is just going to be completely changed by this. It doesn't feel like it's going to just go back to normal afterwards, because people have shown that all these technologies are, usable, and it's super easy to get in touch with friends that you've not spoken to in ages, or just like you say, to have a Discord call on the go during the day. It feels like what we're going to go see after the quarantine is going to be almost a halfway house between the actual quarantine itself and what it was like before. Like, so many people aren't going to want to go back to their workplace because they've shown they can work from home perfectly fine. And
actually a lot of stuff that I've been seeing people talk about online is how often, like, disabled people would be told, no, you can't work from home.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, it's difficult for them to get to the office. And now, actually, what we're proving is for a lot of jobs, you can do it from home. And so hopefully lots of disabled people are just like vindicated.
Yeah.
Like, look, we can do our jobs effectively from home. Like, we don't have to strain ourselves to come into a physical office.
And I think it's really shown what jobs, who is actually creating value in society. It's actually shown that, for example, healthcare professionals, now people are like, Jesus Christ, the NHS is underfunded. We need to give it more money, and we need to,
mean, I hope
treat our healthcare professionals. But also, certainly from Pixel Girl's perspective, it's shown as soon as anybody tries to take care of their children for an entire day of trying to teach them, everybody on Twitter is just like, we need to pay teachers £1 million a week. This is unbelievable what they do. And but also like the simple stuff, like people who stock groceries, or the people that like the Royal Mail, the people that do rubbish collection and stuff. It's actually shown these are the people in society that we cannot do without. And there are so many people especially in like the city in London, who are just like, probably have too much of a sense of self-importance, who actually not going to say completely unnecessary, but not as important as they think they are.
Not on that list of essential workers.
Oh, exactly.
It's seeping into every corner of society, isn't it? Because I mean, certainly for you two who work from home, for yourselves, or for your various kind of pursuits and things, I notice, being someone who typically works, I work a 9 to 5 or thereabouts, Monday, Friday in an office, and that environment is changing so rapidly, because people are realizing not only that it's entirely possible to not need that physical office space, but also the level of productivity via digital meetings and diaries and everything is just increasing productivity tenfold. So where you might say, on a typical day when I'm in the office, I can get X, Y, and Z done, you realise that you're getting X, Y, and Z done, and it's only 3:00 in the afternoon. So you're thinking, well, hang on, so what is it that's really kind of holding me back? What is it? The environment itself? Is it being able to work at your own pace? I don't strictly adhere to I have an hour lunch break, but what I might do if I'm working at home is, if I'm kind of deep diving into some charity work or something, then I might push lunch ahead until maybe 2:00 and then leave early. And I've actually achieved more, rather than trying to stick to a really regimented, right, between X and Y, I'm working these times, and now I've got to go for my lunch, and then I've got to come back for a meeting. And the flexibility gives you more freedom.
It's that flexible working, and there's like lots of people who have been campaigning for that kind of thing before all of this, and I do hope that it's horrible what's happening, obviously, but I really hope that like we come out the other side acknowledging like the important things, and being like, okay, we actually can't go back to the way it was before, because all of these things that's now been brought to light are important. Like the NHS needs funding, the education system needs funding. Actually, flexible working is important and effective, all of these things.
And creators in the arts, people are realizing now. I mean, certainly for me, the government announced last week, or perhaps slightly earlier, this coronavirus job retention scheme, which basically boils down to, rather than making people redundant because organizations can't afford to pay them, the government said, we will be able to pay salaries, basically. The deal being that if you go onto furlough time, the person has to agree to it. They take a 20% reduction in salary, and they can't legally work in that furloughed time. So Tuesday this week was my last day of working from home, and I now have literally nothing to do. I don't even have work to kind of get me through my day. Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely not an ideal situation, but when you think about it, a 20% reduction in salary is, it's not the be all and end all. In fact, it's great to still. Well, this is the thing. I woke up yesterday morning, and I think I've foolishly tried to do everything I could do in the space of 48 hours. So I finished a couple of books I was reading. I've started knitting again, because my gran taught me to knit when I was at school, and I'm doing that now. I've ordered a load of stuff for the garden, and I'm going to start kind of getting that into shape next week. I've got a list of things I want to bake. It's just it's
Dan
crazy.
is a grandparent. He just doesn't. He doesn't have the necessary children or children of children yet.
Yeah, I'm an old man at heart, I think. But it's been great just to be able to just kind of be still. I mean, for all of that we've said, obviously this is a dreadful time, and we're noticing, positives like increase in productivity in business and things. But I think the most valuable thing that's affecting everyone, regardless of whether your state of employment, is that this time is an amazing time for real, meaningful, introspective thought. And it's really great to be able to just have time in the day where you can really listen to yourself and where you are and what you want to be doing. And so yesterday evening, between, I think it would be like 5 and 6, I just sat outside in my garden with a coffee and just didn't do anything. I just sat in a chair for an hour and just listened to the birds and what was going on in like other gardens and things. And it was just lovely to really be still. I don't know whether this is going to last. I'm probably going to go crazy by next week, but it's nice to have the time, you know.
You're going to fall back into that World of Warcraft pit, Dan. I know it's going to happen.
Oh, I played it last night.
I knew it.
I played it. I played a lot of it last night.
It's already happening.
It was great, but we see so many friends that I had that we used to play. We all got back together and said, now is the time to see if we can go back and enjoy it, and we did. It was fantastic.
Well, because that's what we've been doing on my streams. So I've been streaming basically every day now for the past couple of weeks, and we've been playing stuff like Guns of Icarus, which nobody has played since like 2016, and it's been great to get like people back together and playing this game or several games, stuff like Minecraft that we just haven't played for years, and now everybody's around and it turns out it's just as fun as it was. Something, Dan, that you would not be able to do is doubles tennis though.
Oh yeah,
so that's true. Wow, can we just give someone a round of applause for that incredibly subtle, fantastic drawback to the Wikipedia article we were meant to be talking about?
That was incredible. Good work.
But what if he was to do it in 1999, Hannah? Was that when the tournament was?
Yeah, correct.
God, I managed to remember something in this podcast for once. What else could you tell us apart from the fact that the winners were Aussie and American?
The runners-up were both American, and the final score was 7-6, which means that went to a tie-break, which was 7-4, and the second set 6-4.
Wow. Oh, so it's only a 3 sets.
Yeah, doubles are always just best of 3s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Even the men's doubles, yeah.
Because Dan and I used to play a little bit of tennis together in Exeter.
I think you're really severely underselling our incredible skills at the game, Simon.
I used to play tennis. I love tennis.
Really?
I used to play it. Yeah.
We had a great time.
Between the age of 7 and 18, I had weekly tennis lessons.
I did not know that. Because if you wanted to watch us playing tennis, Hannah, you could. It's in the very first PhD weekly vlog that I did, which like blew up, and so like how many hundreds of thousands of people have watched us be fucking awful at tennis.
I mean, I never said I was any good. But...
Well, if you did want to watch it though, tomorrow at the time of recording, if you're listening to this, you know, as an audience member, sorry, I'm doing a live stream marathon of all of the episodes of that vlog, like back to back.
Oh my god!
And I realised it takes 12 hours to watch all of them.
Whoa.
See, some people might do a Lord of the Rings or a Harry Potter marathon. Simon, no, I'm going to watch myself.
Are you not terrified of like cringing at your own videos and
Well, the thing is, I'm not going to sit there and watch the whole thing. I'm actually currently rendering it, all of the files into one 55 gigabyte 12-hour MP4, and then I'm going to set that running on my Twitch. I've got to do a bunch of stuff tomorrow, and then I'm.
Oh, so you're not live reacting?
No,
to
I'll pop into the chat and like type, and I've got like a list of key moments that happen and like roughly when they're going to happen in terms of time, which I'm going to tweet out as well. So I'll drop in for like when we do our beer mile or where I go back to Oxford or, you know, loads of different things.
Should I do a rerun of the Hormone Diaries?
Well, it'd be interesting to, because this was just an idea I had that like the Oxcast do reruns of their stuff on like their Twitch, and I was like, you know what, I've got this thing, maybe it'd be a fun thing to do. I don't think it's going to get a lot of people watching it, but it might be a fun experience to dip in and out of, and it, you know, may end up doing quite well. So if it does well, please feel free to copy it. I'm not anticipating.
I don't even know how good any of those videos are.
That's the thing, I actually had to track down a lot of these, and it was nice in like tracking them down and being like, oh, this is the video where I did this, and then like being able to rewatch bits of your life, especially when it's like a wholly encompassing video blog. You can be like, you see your friends as you remember them, and you get to relive all these fun things that you did. And it was actually really nice. So
how wholesome.
I'm kind of looking forward to tomorrow, actually.
I want to circle back to something that Dan said just before, which is like, why wouldn't you just, like a normal person, do a Lord of the Rings marathon?
Yeah.
Great point. My Dan and I, like, last weekend or 2 weekends ago.
I saw.
Did extended editions Lord of the Rings marathon.
Fantastic.
And what was it? Because when was the last time you watched the movies? Because it's been ages since I've actually watched them. I've watched bits on YouTube.
I feel like Dan and I watch them quite regularly. So in the first year of our relationship, we did a marathon of all of them, of the extended editions. And then literally, probably within the last 6 months, we watched all 3 of them again, but we didn't marathon them. We just kind of like, when we had a 4-hour free evening, we would sit down and watch one of them. And then, so it hasn't actually been that long since we watched them all, and then we were like, well, now's the time, let's do another marathon.
Because I've never actually, like I say, it's been years since I've watched them, but I imagine it's a very different experience watching them back to back.
Oh my god, watching them back to back is the only way. And here's my reasoning behind that. I genuinely believe, because the characters go on such an epic, exhausting, traumatizing journey, and it's 12 hours of films. Like you're doing it for an entire day, right? And by the end of it, you feel like you've also just been on an epic quest.
So really, when watching this, you need to employ a method acting attitude.
Well, like, you're watching all of these characters at the end just like relieved and exhausted and just like, oh my god, we did it. And that's how like you feel at the end. You're like, oh my god, how amazing are we? We did it.
I'd love to see.
It's over. It's done.
There'd be an amazing thing you could do where you take a before and after photo of when you start the marathon and when you end. And when you end, you're like Frodo on Mount Doom. Your lips are cracked. You're kind of like bleeding and grazed. You're like, oh, finally.
It's over, Sam. It's done.
Yeah. You're trying to go to bed, but someone has to carry you to bed. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Amazing.
That's the bit that makes my Dan always cry.
I mean, it's experiential cinema. It's like, is it hidden cinema? What's the one in London?
Secret cinema.
Have you ever done that? I've never gone.
Yes. I did Romeo plus Juliet.
Oh, the Baz Luhrmann.
Yes, which was
classic.
Amazing. And then I also did the recent Stranger Things one.
So for those of you who don't know at home, Hannah, what is secret cinema then? Because this is really cool.
Secret cinema is basically an immersive theatre experience, and then you watch the film afterwards, whilst a lot of the immersive theatre is still kind of happening around you. And you get given like a character or like an archetype before you go up, and everyone's in fancy dress. For the Stranger Things one, we didn't like sit down and like watch something afterwards, but there was still like a finale bit. But like, it's so amazing because the way that they do it is that there's all of these different storylines happening around you. The casting, they cast the actors perfectly. Like, they look identical to the characters in the movies or in the TV show. It's uncanny. Like, for the Stranger Things one, we were just like wandering around. It's like a 4th of July celebration, and you'd see like Eleven and Mike like running somewhere, and you're like, oh my god, it's Eleven and it's Mike. Or like, oh my god, it's Joyce Byers. Like, because they look so like them, and they interact with you. At one point, Max held my hand and looked at me and being like, have you seen Lucas? And I was like, no, I've not seen Lucas. And she's like, have you seen Lucas? And she like grabbed me and we like ran off somewhere. Oh, it's amazing.
Amazing.
I was going to say, Dan, this is like you in a nutshell. If we were to ever do a theatre like an experience together, we should absolutely get to London and do this.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be incredible.
Because I've seen them do it for like Casino Royale and like Blade Runner, and they always do it in like interesting settings, right? They will get a setting that's sort of appropriate.
Well, so the Romeo plus Juliet one was kind of like festival vibes, and it was in a park and it was in a big field. But every other one that I know of, it's all been in an indoor venue, but they just they decorate it and they create massive sets.
Sounds fantastic.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've definitely gotten as much juice out of a doubles Wikipedia article for this section. But Hannah, to introduce the next section of the show, oh God, I've never actually had to say this out loud to a guest before, I don't think. So Dan is a singer at Exeter Cathedral.
Lovely.
And what is the next corner of the podcast, Dan?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. It's arguably one of the nicher corners. And he says, as he so brilliantly cues up the next jingle, it's time for my choral piece of the week. And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please. Oh, how lovely. I will keep it brief because I know that this is, as I say, somewhat niche, but as Simon said, and as readers will know, I am a big fan of choral music. I sing it myself and just generally can't get enough of it. So my succinct choral piece of the week.
Granddad.
Oh God, Old Man Dan strikes again.
I'm going to go for an album, Simon. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. An LP, as you would refer to.
An LP.
Were you about to listen to an entire choral music album? Is that what's
yeah. You we're not finished this until tomorrow morning. You're done for the night. This is all we're doing now.
Marathon.
The album I'm choosing is from Simon. Here's a clue. It's from a very well-known, extremely talented group of singers. Can you take a guess as to which choral group this might be?
Is it the University of Exeter Chapel Choir?
No, not them. Damn close. But
is it Little Mix?
But it could. Yes, it could be.
Is it Tenebrae?
Here's a clue. There's 16 of them.
Oh, is it the 16?
It's the 16. Very well done. Marvellous.
I could have guessed that.
Harry Christophers, you son of a bitch. You've done it again.
It's the 16. It's a new album they've released, and it's called The Call of Rome. And I've chosen it not only because it's got an incredible selection of pieces from very well-known composers, Allegri, Anerio, Victoria, Hannah, you can just kind of nod through this, like you know what I'm talking about.
In podcast form, if you just want to.
Yes, yeah. Digital
snap
nod.
my fingers, just like,
Yeah.
Allegri, love it. But the thing I love about it is that there is a real sense of, I'm going to say pilgrimage through listening to the music. And it makes you listen not only to every piece in its own right being wonderful, but the ordering of pieces across the album, you can almost appreciate the entire thing as one big soundscape. And at a time, I think, when we want to perhaps escape our living rooms or confinement in this lockdown time, then I think there's no better way than listening to The Call of Rome by the 16.
Very fine. I mean, as always, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Something that just to piggyback on this slightly, I have been going for a real phase in the past couple of weeks of rediscovering postmodern jukebox. Which,
excellent, yeah.
Have you not heard of PMJ, Hannah? Oh, you're about to enter into a fantastic world. So basically, Postmodern Jukebox is a musician called Scott Bradley and a bunch of his friends who take a popular modern song, and modern can be anything from like the 60s onwards, and redo it in a retro style. So there's like, what's a good example?
What does retro mean then? Before the 60s?
Well, it can be anything from like the 20s up until like the 80s, I'd say. Like it's all like professional musicians. I wasn't going to say acoustic, that's definitely not true. But like kind of like what you'd see on a stage, like a swing band kind of thing. But doing stuff like Stacey's Mum, or
yes, I love it.
Not the little boy that I used to be. I'm all grown up and now, baby, can't you see? Hey, Stacey's mom has got it going on. She's all I want, and I waited for so long.
And they'll often do like a totally different style. So I've been listening to a lot of Video Killed the Radio Star, but in the style of Queen.
I heard you on the wireless back in 52, lying awake, intently tuning in on you.
And this singer who sounds just like Freddie Mercury. I'll tell you, I'll put a link to this in the show notes, and Hannah, I'll send you a link afterwards. You can go through and they're so ridiculously big on YouTube. Like, I think the most popular video they have is Creep by Radiohead, but done in like a totally different style. I wouldn't even know how to describe it really. And that's got 76 million views. Like, they're huge.
Ooh. There's this YouTuber that I watched some of her videos called Ali. I can never pronounce her surname. Ali. I want to say her Ali Spagnolia. Ali Spag. I can't remember her name. Anyway, she's great. She's a musician, and she makes these videos that's like, what if this song was sung by this artist? So it would be like, what if Lizzo's Truth Hurts was sung by Billie Eilish?
Oh, cool.
But the video is watching her process of making the song as well.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's proper good.
Okay, well, loads of music recommendations, and people have got plenty of time to try them out. So you're welcome, internet. There you go. There's a bunch of music you can go and listen to from all three of us. Wasn't that good? That was a nice bit of symmetry. What do we need to do next, Dan? Top lad. Hello, everyone. Simon here. So, when we recorded this episode with Hannah, it turns out that Dan and I forgot to record Patreon Corner. I think we intended to do it after we finished recording the episode. We didn't want Hannah just to sit there and nod politely through a bunch of names. So, I'm just going to read out the Patreon Corner stuff now. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to apologise for the quality of my mic in this. As you may have noticed, it's pretty shocking. Not quite sure why. My audio hardware seems to have done an absolute number, and in theory should be working, but apparently it's not. So, apologies for that. Can't really do anything about it now. For those of you who are new to the show, Patreon Corner is basically how we fund the show. People can donate at patreon.com/the Wikicast to pay for our hosting costs, to pay for our lovely editor, Adam, and for a variety of other projects that we'd like to put into action. So thank you very much to everybody who supports us. Those who support us can choose to do so at a $1 level or a $5 level. If you choose to be a $5 level, then you have to make a decision about whether you are on Team Cat or on Team Dog. That is, whether you are correct or incorrect about which you think is the superior household pet. I'll begin by thanking the people that I would normally thank, which is of course Team Cat. So I would like to thank Choco Cat, Christopher Betterton, Cole Mansfield, Dan Hanvey, Isabella Strowski, John Mannion, Kenneth Kuzmierek, Layla Medina, Lewis Watson, Nafi Iftikhar, Oliver Burkhart, Oliver Craigie, Omar Miranda, Princess Andromeda, Rents Kirk, River Ward, Tom Withington, Trustworthy Ginger, and William Humphreys. However, I now have to swallow the bile rising in my throat, as I also have to thank Team... I have to thank Team Dog, everyone. I never thought this day would come. Fortunately, there's not many names, because not many people are so stupid as to believe that dogs are the best household pet. Prove me wrong, pricks. I'd like to thank Alistair Fortune, Ben McMurtry, Colin J. Brown, Eric Davis, Eric Bolliger, Eve Sharples, Jay Wright, Kodzo, Kyle Peary, Maggie, Peter Reed, and Samantha. Thank you, I guess, for your support, and thank you in particular to those lovely people supporting at the Team Cat level. Anyway, with this bit of housekeeping done, back to the show and my awful, awful microphone. Top lad! Right, so we have our first email here. This is from Sean Richards. It reads, Dear Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and... wrong parchment.
Nice.
Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, long-time reader, first-time writer, apologies in advance for the veritable dissertation you're about to read.
Oh, God, it's a long one. Okay,
here we go. Let's see if I can... Right, okay.
Strap in, lads.
I must say, I am terribly pleased to hear that Simon has read Rendezvous with Rama, which I talked about in the last episode, which is Arthur C. Clarke. It was great. People could check my Goodreads for the review. Really enjoyed it. Pressingly, I must ask if the leader of the Great Church of Clarktholicism has read the book Contact by Carl Sagan. I haven't. So, I don't know. Do you read much sci-fi, Hannah? Because you read quite widely.
Do I?
Well, you're an author. You've got so many books in the house.
Just because you write them doesn't necessarily mean you read widely. Sci-fi. Sci-fi. I read some sci-fi, but it's not a genre that I know about in terms of like, you know, when you know about a genre, you know, like, oh, this is an important text. This text changed the genre. Like, I don't know that.
Right. Okay. Because no, I've not read a lot of like the big stuff like Carl Sagan. This is my first thing by Arthur C. Clarke. So I am lamentably for someone.
No, I wouldn't even be able to name famous sci-fi authors.
Well, I mean, for somebody in such a position of dorkery as I feel like I should have read more. So I'm sorry, Sean, but I have not yet. But I would like to. I know there's a very good film about it as well. So, you know, we got that. Secondly, I must ask both noble leaders of the Church of Clarktholicism and the Church of Mormonism, have you played Breath of the Wild? Have you, Dan?
No, I desperately want to. I think I'm going to sell my PlayStation and possibly try and get a Switch. But I don't know if you've seen, it's absolutely nightmarish to try and get hold of the bloody things because everyone's had that idea. They're buying consoles because there's nothing else to do.
My Dan really wants a Nintendo Switch, but yes, we can't get one right now.
I have to say, I'm sat here very smugly because I did get one a little while back, and it is my favourite console of all time. It is so good. And Animal Crossing is just my jam right now. Pixel Girl and I share an island that we've been developing together, and I love it. It's just my favourite thing. But no, I haven't played Breath of the Wild.
So late to the Animal Crossing party.
Oh, you'd love it, Hannah. Honestly, I
don't want to. Just all of the time I'll sink into it, which I'm not sinking into it currently, but I'm sinking into other things.
True, yes.
The idea of sinking loads of time into a video game really is a bad thing for me. I feel like I've been through that phase in my life. I want to garden now.
Your young days in the wild, sowing wild oats in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, amazing.
So, no, Sean, I have unfortunately not read either or played either of the things you've recommended here. And then they follow with a diary of what they've been up to for self-isolation. Day 1 of self-isolation, I felt like I haven't talked to anyone for 7 months. Day 7, I've made my way through the hordes to get to the supermarket. They're out of all the meat, so I have to buy dog food. Day 12, society has collapsed. The supermarkets lie in ruins. Periodically, people roam the streets, mouths agape, looking for what lonely morsels they can find. Day 13 of self-isolation. Hey, my code finished compiling. And then that's the end of the diary, so I feel like...
Have you guys seen the new Tesco advert?
No?
What's this?
It was so sweet. I was watching a program on All 4, so you get ads. And it was basically like it was very lovely. It was basically just explaining, hey, when you come to one of our stores, here's what to expect. There's going to be markings on the floor to do this. You will find this here. This is going to be here. Hope you're, it was just really lovely and just really just like, this is how it is. We're going to explain to you how it's going to be, like, to help manage everyone's expectations. I just thought it was really lovely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I had a similar, just a slightly tangential comment. I had a similar experience with that today. I used my hour of free roaming to go out and pick up some food, and went into Marks and Spencer, typically because previously when I've gone in, certainly the one in Exeter has been fairly, because so many students have left, basically overcrowding hasn't really been an issue. So you you go down, it's underground, and they say, please observe, social distancing, stay away from, like, 2 meters away from people, otherwise go. And I was thinking, okay, fine, I'm in for the same joy today. However, I approached it and I saw there was a huge queue of people outside, and I thought, gosh, Tesco must be busy because they typically have the longest queue and they're next to each other. But it was Marks and Spencer, and they've changed it such that you queue at the outside kind of main entrance to the building, and they have like a clear in and a clear out. But to get in, you've got to go through the ground floor right the way through, and then down like a back entrance into basically you have to parade yourself alone round the ground floor of Marks and Spencer before you get to the food court. And it felt like some ancient Greek kind of, I'm returning to the city after a triumph. And I was walking through but past these shelves and things of like jeans and cardigans, and it was just me on my own with my bags. It was just so bizarre. I've just looked up this Tesco ad, incidentally, and it looks brilliant.
It does kind of feel very much like The Last of Us kind of thing. Like, it is very, like... Because I did a run to Tesco the other day, and I felt like... it was not The Last of Us. I felt like I was in Death Stranding. Like, I had a huge backpack on. I had 2 big bags on my arms. And luckily, we were able to get about a week's worth of food, whereas before we were a bit limited. But it just feels so barren. It's spooky. It's actually spooky when you're so used to seeing these places be bustling, and especially next to, as you say, with all the students that have gone home. It's weird. But anyway, so sorry. Thank you very much, Messer Sean of New Zealand, he specifies. Age, 8,267 days, 8 hours, 30 minutes, 12 seconds. Very precise. Thank you, Sean.
Good to know.
We have another email here. This one is from Michael. And the subject line is for Hannah Witton and the Wiki Lads. So we've got one here. This is a keen, avid writer in. He begins, Dear Dr. S. Clark, Mr. D. Moore and Miss H. Witton. Sup. So you asked for questions about sex/relationships, so here I go. Sorry if it's a bit more deep than you intended.
Oh boy. Okay.
Here we go.
Are you ready?
Strap in. So my girlfriend and I have been in a long-term relationship for nearly 5 years now. We both agree that one of the ways we know we love each other is that we are that when we are together, we don't feel like we have to put on a performance or pretend we're something we aren't. We both feel like we do this when we're around others. As such, it really caught me off guard when she admitted recently that she feels like she has to perform for me in the bedroom, e.g. acting, looking, being sexy. We both have body image issues, but hers are definitely worse than mine for societal and personal reasons, and we both support each other as best we can around these issues. She also has a lot of insecurities about not deserving me to be loved, nice things, etc., which I try to help with too. She is the most beautiful, stunning, sexy, kind, clever, funny, and generally wonderful human being I've ever met, and I tell her that as often as I can, particularly when I think, oh, she's hot at random points, when I know she's not trying to look sexy, but just is. Besides this, can you recommend any way for me to help her overcome, or even just to deal with these insecurities, particularly in the bedroom, but also outside of it? Thanks in advance, and sorry for dumping that all on you. Sincerely, a boyfriend who wishes she could see herself through my eyes.
Aww. What a lovely, concerned boyfriend.
Well, Hannah, you're the resident expert. What advice can you give?
I feel like I'm not an expert relationship advice person when it comes to things like this, but I can give it a go.
I think you're going to do better than we would.
I think the main thing that actually stood out to me was about how they say that they only feel comfortable to not put on any kind of performance with each other, but they feel like they're doing that with other people, and it might. And I genuinely believe that even if you've got a really solid, great, like romantic relationship, if you've got a great partner, having really solid platonic relationships and friendships where you feel like you can also like truly be yourself are just as important and valid. And so like it might not necessarily be a thing of like, oh, there's this like one issue that's affecting our sex life or affecting our relationship or affecting my girlfriend's self-esteem, but kind of like zooming out and looking at it holistically and being like, do you have a support network outside of your partner? Do you have like good fulfilling relationships and connections outside of that as well? Like, because all of those things come together to help with someone's self-esteem. And obviously then...
Can you guys, by the way, hear cheering? Because it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I can hear something.
I can hear like a ringing as well, like a ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding.
that's, I think, Pixel goes. So it's the 8 o'clock applause for the NHS.
Oh, I see. Hang on, I'm going to open...
So I wasn't sure if you could hear it where you were.
Hang on. I can hear something through my headphones.
Yeah, hang on, I'm just going to... One second, I'm just going to add my voice to the
I can hear people howling outside. Hold on. I don't think I can reach my door without taking my headphones off. One sec.
Oh man, this country's a bit of a shiter, but like it does do some good things sometimes.
Oh, sweet. Oh, I feel...
Hello, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Sorry, our window in our office doesn't open fully. It's broken, and so I could hear lots of whooping, but I couldn't actually like fully step out to join in.
But yeah, certainly here that you could hear it across the whole neighbourhood. That was amazing.
Yeah. Whooping.
Oh, yeah, like, God, this country has felt so broken for the past couple of years, but that's now twice now this has happened, where just for like a couple of minutes, it's felt like we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so cool.
Oh, wow. Sorry, that completely derailed the recording, and you were in the middle of giving a very, very good answer about...
Oh, I don't even know if it was. That was just something that stood out to me in the question. Because I genuinely believe that your partner shouldn't be everything to you and shouldn't...
Yeah.
And if you do have, like, any kind of inner turmoil, whatever that is, like low self-esteem or other maybe mental health stuff going on, then yes, it's great to have a partner who you can talk to those things about and rely on, but they never should be the only person that you talk to about these things.
And I feel like there's a very...
I don't know if this is really helping the problem.
But I feel like you're right, and I think it's very easy for somebody in a relationship to idealize only relying on one person for that kind of thing. Like you feel like, you know, it's romantic to be someone's everything, and the fact is that it's not necessarily healthy to do that.
Absolutely. I think the thing that struck me, again, much like you said, Hannah, I don't think any of us are truly in a position to give you know, near clinical advice, but I think, as with so many things, simply talking about it does work wonders.
Yeah, and it
because
sounds
it can
like
clear
they've got
things up.
great communication.
Yeah, I think too, the thing about, it's interesting, I think that we both pick up on the same thing about the whole, let me try to say it right. We feel like, we don't feel like we have to put on a performance or pretend we're something we aren't. And we both feel like we have to do this around others. I think this is so kind of symptomatic of, it's so easy to feel a need to ascribe to a certain label or an idea or a way of acting, especially around other people, because clearly that, you know, when you and your better half are together, that completely goes away. So I wonder if there's something that can be done to kind of take that need away, because I think that, as you say, the communication is clearly fantastic. It sounds like you're both, you know, both are meant to be. A long-term relationship for nearly 5 years is incredible.
Yeah, but also I think that, like, it sounds like you're doing all of the right things. Like, you're communicating, you're complimenting, you're listening, you're supporting her, and like all of these things, which is all the right things to be doing. But also I think it's important to know that, like, even if you are doing all of the right things, when it comes to how someone like feels about themselves, there's only so much that you as an outsider can do or say to change truly what is going on in their heads. Yeah. And so at some point, I think you do have to kind of be like, I've done what I can. This is all that you might be capable of offering at a certain time, and they also need to put in the work themselves.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's a pickle, because I feel like I've certainly been in a situation like this before, where I feel like my partner doesn't, you know, they don't see themselves as I see them. From a positive perspective, not in the sense of I think they're awful and they don't see it. I mean, I've definitely had that in a past relationship as well, to be fair. But, you know, from a positive perspective, it is frustrating, because you're just like, why can't you see how great you are? And so I totally get that. So I hope that we were at least some help, Michael, with that email. And thank you very much for writing in with that.
We should also draw attention to the most important part of this email, where Michael adds a PS saying dogs rule. Hannah, you might not know, but there is very much a team dog, team cat dynamic on this podcast. I represent those sane individuals who think dogs are the way forward. Simon is sadly of the feline persuasion.
Interesting, adverb you used there, but okay.
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna really some up here, because I hate both.
Oh my! Well, it's lovely talking to you, Hannah.
We'll have a kick on the call.
That's a bit strong. I'm indifferent to cats
fair
and
enough.
dogs.
Yeah, you do have a pet, of course, which I don't know if you know this, Dan.
I have a leopard gecko.
Oh, cool.
Which is, I think, also what Smith from Hat Films has. He's got a couple of
he's
reptiles.
got a few, hasn't he?
Little lizards.
Yeah, very, very cool. And not the kind of thing you can cuddle up to, but I don't think that's what you're looking for in a pet.
That is not what I'm looking for in the slightest.
Yeah, it's different strokes for different folks, so to speak.
Indeed.
Well, speaking of which, we have an email here from Danby. Dan Hanvey, a long-time supporter of the podcast.
I know Dan Hanvey.
Oh, yes, you will, yeah. His email is subject line, "The crows are spreading COVID-19."
Brilliant.
Thank you for that, Dan. Great. Off to a strong start. Dear Simon, Dan and Hannah, gents, I hope you're both doing well in your respective homes. And Hannah, I hope you've been made to feel warmly welcome. Have you?
Indeed.
Good.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Wonderful.
Thought I'd start with a sex-related story. I can't think why. A few years ago, I got a hand job from a married woman under a tree outside Exeter Cathedral. That's
excellent work, Dan.
Well,
excellent work.
Is this a joke or is this a story he likes to tell all the time?
No, so we had a previous a current reader wrote in with a story that it actually happened to them, and the most brilliant thing is whenever Simon and I meet up again in Exeter, we can stand at the foot of that very tree, and it's like a handshake through time, or rather a hand job through time.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Isn't that nice?
So this didn't happen to Dan Hanvey.
It happened to an anonymous reader, and then Dan has just taken ownership of this.
Oh, I love it. I like that. Oh. Funny.
Right, okay. So, no, but seriously, he says, I don't think the exercise potential of sex can be overlooked. Oh, boy, okay.
Especially when you're sat at your desk all day. It's sometimes the only exercise you get.
Quite. And he goes on to say, some of my periods of highest lung function have been when I've been in healthy relationships, and I'm sure that's a factor. He has cystic fibrosis, so it doesn't take much to take his breath away. Which, bless him. Only slightly embarrassing explaining the uptick to my physiotherapist, but hey, they've likely heard it all. This is true.
Excellent.
Have you ever had to explain something embarrassing to a doctor, Dan?
I don't think I've had to explain anything, but I've been in at least 3 embarrassing scenarios with a doctor that involves my
penis.
How to put it delicately? Yes, penis. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you so much.
I was only joking.
No, I had a thing.
How would you have put it delicately?
Well, I was going to say my downstairs, but
penis will suffice.
Yeah, penis is fine.
Quote.
Yeah,
somebody put that on his tombstone.
Yeah, penis will suffice. Yeah, I've had a couple where I've had to kind of go into one was I was going for a checkup, and I thought I was going to mention a thing, and he was like, oh yeah, okay, sure, let's have a look then. And I just, and I would have been kind of like mid-late pubescent teen at that stage. So
I see.
That's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But and a smattering of others, on a weekly occurrence. I just think I share. It's nice to pop into your local GP and say, do you want to have a look? And they go, not today, Mr. Moore. And I'll go, okay, fine. Well, next week is fine. All right, see you then. Have you, Simon, Hannah, anyone else?
I've not had a sexual one. I did have to explain to my doctor once why I had a broken rib. Which was because I held my breath for too long and I passed out and I fell on a toilet and broke my rib.
Why were you holding your breath?
Because, as I was at pains to express to my doctor, I worked out that if I held my breath and tensed all my muscles, I turned purple. And I was practicing in front of the mirror.
Were you showing off for someone?
I was practicing in front of the mirror before I showed my friend, and then the last thing I remember thinking was, oh, it's getting dark in here. And then I woke up on the floor, and I had hit the toilet so hard that I broke the toilet seat, and I smashed a rib.
What? Who found you?
I found myself.
I bet you did. I bet you found yourself, you psychopath.
And I remember this because this was the day of AS level results. So I had to get myself off the ground, limp down to school, try and pass off that everything was fine, and then went to the doctor and he was like, so how did this happen? I was like, I tried to give him as little information as possible.
We've been friends for a long time now, Simon, and that perfectly sums up you. I feel if you've got your mind set on something, you'll bloody well give it the best go you can, and if that involves breaking a loo and a rib, you'll do it.
I think this also confirms for me why most of the winners of the Darwin Awards are men.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Prime example here.
Sometimes I go and read some of the things on there, and I'm just like, no woman would ever attempt this.
The thing is, I could have died in retrospect. I could have actually won a Darwin Award because what would happen?
Could have been on the list, Simon.
Yeah, because I could have just smashed a ribbon instead of bouncing off and onto the ground. I could have just ended face up in the toilet and drowned. Imagine if somebody finds you in that situation. My parents open the door to the bathroom and they find a smashed toilet seat and me face down dead in the toilet.
Yeah, and they would never have known that you were holding your breath beforehand or why you were doing it. That would have just been a mystery forever.
And to top it all off, you were the most charming shade of lilac. You know, it would have been just such a lovely sight, but alas. 'Twas not to be.
Was this like an auto asphyxiation accident?
Oh my goodness.
You'd look like a bullied Thanos. Be fantastic.
Oh my god, yes. Yeah, that's going on my tombstone. Hannah, have you had any story? Have you had to explain anything embarrassing to a doctor like that?
No, I don't think I have actually, but plenty of doctors have seen my vulva. Mm-hmm. Just from, you know, the cervical screenings, coil insertions.
Yeah.
You know, all of that stuff. We kind of get it a lot. I've had doctors, because of my colitis and stuff, I've had doctors putting their fingers up my arse. I had one where they put my fingers up
the answer to the question was like, well, not really, and then you.
Yeah, but I'm not. But also, I'm not embarrassed by any of these things. So it's like all of these things have happened to me, but I'm just like, but it's fine. The finger up the arse one was quite funny though. Well, the most recent one there's been many, but there was one where they asked me to basically like clench, and I had to try and like hold onto their fingers inside me.
They were like, right now, stand up and pull me with you.
Which I'd never been asked to do that before, and I was just like, am I doing good? Is my butthole sufficient?
Where do I rank on the scale of butt strength? Like, you've got to know.
Am I dreaming? Have I suddenly fallen? We've just had a lovely round of applause for the NHS, and that sentence just ended with,
God
and
bless
I had to
you,
really
arse fingers.
hold on to it.
God bless you.
Yeah, well, yeah,
fantastic.
Genuinely.
Yes, I mean, it is. We joke about it, but it is serious. I was going to say it's serious. That is not the right phrase. It's serious stuff. Exactly. Yes. Anyway, moving swiftly on. On a different note, going back to Danby's email, on a different note, this self-isolation lark has me thinking of desert island discs. Therefore, for all three of you, if marooned on a desert island, what 3 pieces of music and what book would you choose to have to help you until rescue? God, give us an easy one, Dan. I'd have a book on how to build a raft.
Yeah,
of course you would.
That's
of course
smart.
you would. I would probably have something like Milton's Paradise Lost, entirely useless in a survival situation, but brilliant to read.
Dark chocolate for the brain, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Music.
I either would like. I'm trying to think of like a really long book. Like, I'd either take a massive encyclopedia or...
Value for money. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Isn't the rule with Desert Island Discs that you also get like the Bible and the complete works of Shakespeare? Like you get
That's right, yeah.
Loads of material.
Nice. Yeah, because this is the thing, like, can I take a book where it's like they've republished multiple books in one physical thing?
Like a greatest hits album.
Yeah. Yeah, like
an anthology of something.
Yeah, imagine if they like published one book that had all 7 Harry Potter books in it.
Oh, stop.
Dan is
I'm going weak at the knees.
In case you weren't aware, Hannah.
Music though, it's 3 songs, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't think it's albums. It's literally just like pieces of music.
I would take a First Aid Kit song. Can't decide right now.
Well, the safety dance.
No, Simon. I can't decide which one. Maybe Stay Gold. And then I would take, I think it would have to be a song from Wicked. Maybe Defying Gravity.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout.
That's one way to escape the island, I suppose, in really wishful thinking.
Yeah. And then I think I would take, I don't know, come back to me.
I think I'd go for More Than a Feeling by Boston. The Vienne Messe Solennelle.
Good boy.
And then, because the most powerful thing you can do is to have an opportunity and not take it, I would then choose as my third piece 4 minutes 33 by John Cage.
Wow. Fantastic.
I'm lost. But
well, if you heard the piece, you'd recognise it, Hannah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, Milton's Paradise Lost is my book. I would take. Can I have the Path of Miracles as a single piece? I can't really. Can I?
You can fit that on one. I said the Mess Solomel, so why not?
Okay, cool. I'd have a Wolfpack song, but I'm trying to think of which one I'd take. Maybe Conscious Club. Do either of you know Wolfpack?
I don't think so.
I recognise that.
Oh,
and
my
also,
goodness.
I'm kind of like now thinking about songs that are really long.
Yeah, what value for money can you get?
About value for money.
There's a piece of music by Max Richter that's like 8 hours long.
It would be like movie soundtrack songs.
Yeah, like one big soundscape.
I've been listening to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack a lot recently since.
Yeah, because on the original release of the album, there was a track that was just called The Return of the King that was like 12 minutes long, I think.
Exactly.
Well, there we go. Maybe some long... Yeah, maybe a long one like that. I can't think of a third one, though.
It's a tough one.
I think it is a tough one.
Or you could just take Hannah with you. She's just like a jukebox.
Yeah. The best jukebox ever. Only plays one song. I went on a bike ride last weekend, and in between one pub and another pub, sadly not being able to go in them, I was playing the Riders of Rohan theme while cycling. Oh my God, I've never felt more majestic in my life.
Oh, I love it.
It was incredible.
You felt like a wild horse.
When I was at uni, I would do my like essay writing work and stuff to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack.
See, I find it too distracting. I actually now can't not listen to it, if that makes sense. Like it kind of overrides the processing part.
I think I didn't really know it that well then. It was just like really epic background music.
I mean, Spotify has been like a game changer for that for me, because you just find a song that you're like, I want to listen to stuff like this, and they just put the radio on that song, and then suddenly you're set. Like you don't have to, listen to one album and then over and over and over again. Like, it's been so good. There's just so much music on Spotify. Who knew?
Who knew?
Anyway, so Danby concludes, finally, if anyone in this community is feeling isolated during this lockdown, please use the Discord. There is always a link to the Discord in the show notes. I found that talking to people in text or audio or video daily, hugely helpful. My DMs, meaning Danby's, are always open for a chat if you want someone to talk to, ask questions, or just vent. We'll get through this with each other's support. Lots of loves.
Indeed.
With a 2 meters distance, Danby. P.S. Wash your damn hands. Well, thank you very much, Danby.
What a great message. I feel like that message covered many things.
That was a lot.
Absolutely.
Right there.
That's a good one here. I think it's short and to the point. The subtitle is Wikicast questions. Hannah, this is specifically for you.
Oh.
And it reads, has Hannah ever given Dan sex or relationship advice? If she has, does it work?
Ever given my Dan?
I would assume so, yes.
I mean, all of the time, isn't that what being in a relationship is? Is you're constantly, like, telling the other person what to do.
That does feel about right, actually.
Yeah.
I think, like, we've never had a moment where I've sat down and gone, okay, Dan, welcome to Hannah Witton's Sex Ed 101. Like, that's never happened. But obviously, like, when you're in a relationship with someone, just like as and when things come up in the conversations you have, it's constant like back and forth of learning things from each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually, I know that we said that was going to be the last one, but we actually have had a cracking one, just another very quick one here from Dan. It's a repeat criminal for us. It's the saucepan sinner.
Oh, goodness me.
A long reference. Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, I hope you're both happy and healthy and that Hannah is too. I have a question for Hannah. What advice would Hannah give to people who are unable to see their partners during the period of the lockdown? I'm unable to see my partner for however long this lasts, and he's driving me bonkers complaining that he can't see me. Help. I feel like there's an obvious answer to this, which I'm not sure if it's just because I'm a guy.
Okay, yeah, they can do that. But the other obvious answer is... I literally have a video coming out next week about long distance date ideas.
Oh, with a plug. Oh.
Yeah. So I got you. But my main thing would be prioritize face-to-face video calls over any other kind of form of communication, because that is almost as good, if not just as good, in terms of feeling like an actual human connection with someone as like being physically with someone, and it's much better than text or just audio calls.
Yeah, as someone who did a long distance relationship for quite a while, I totally agree.
Surprisingly too, actually, I can chime in on this because I watched a really brilliant video the other day, and this is a channel I've followed on YouTube for a long time now, Sexplanations with Dr. Lindsay Doe.
Yeah, she just did a video on phone sex.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk about. I've been watching her for years, and it's a brilliant channel, and Dr. Lindsay is amazing. But there's a recent video uploaded on the 26th of March, and it's all about it's titled "How to Have Phone Sex," and it's really interesting, as are all her videos. So perhaps if you wanted to explore that route,
give it a watch.
Then there's a great video about the inner workings of it.
Well, but there's also another great video on Hannah's YouTube channel, which, hang on,
yes.
We need to do the outro before we get to the plugging section. Oh God, that actually probably is not the right. Okay.
You said it.
Hannah, what did we learn about from Wikipedia today?
We learned about the 1999 men's clay doubles.
And we learned precious little about it because there wasn't very much to learn.
It was a very small Wikipedia article.
But we talked about the quarantine and how it's going to change society, and we clapped.
And what we've all been up to as well.
Yeah.
Most interestingly, how we're coping. We had an amazing interruption to the podcast, listening to the fantastic nationwide
clapping
applause and
the
cheering for our
brothers.
wonderful NHS,
and some cracking correspondence from the community. You didn't let us down, ladies and gentlemen. You definitely lived up to form. But
you're not going away with that, Simon.
Yeah, I tried to style it out, but
you did,
you're just drawing attention to it now.
Yeah, gentlemen. Very nice, very good.
I don't know why my voice has been cracking so much recently.
It's all right. You're going through a period of change, and that's fine.
Oh, my
That's
second
all fine.
puberty.
And that's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Your awkward doctor stories, isolation diaries, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast, Hannah. I hope you've had a nice time.
I have. Thanks for having me.
And where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about what you do?
I am Hannah Witton on YouTube and at Hannah Witton on Twitter and Instagram. Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole.
And we'll see you next
time.
3, 2, 1.
And we'll see you next time. Can we give one more crack at that? I don't think we were even vaguely together.
I couldn't remember what it was, so I was just like,
just a really good selection of vowel sounds. It's fine.
It's like when you try and get a dog to talk, and it's like,
that's what it felt like.
Right, I'll do another countdown, and we'll hit it again.
Sure.
Okay.
Walls.
Very good. 3, 2, 1.